and Tom sitting loud at the mic, discussing politics, their passion ignites. Conservative values, they stand their ground. In a world of chaos, their truth can be found. Unsanctioned America, they won't back down. Voices of reason in a liberal town. Oh, John and Tom bringing the heat. In a podcast storm, they won't face defeat. Speaking their minds, it's a freedom fight. Unsanctioned America, they'll light up the night. They break it down, what's fair and what's right, calling out the nonsense, shining a light. With every debate, they sharpen their blade, fighting for freedom, the life's only lane. In a nation divided, they'll rise above with passion and truth and a whole lot of love. Oh, John and Tom bringing the heat. In a podcast storm, they won't face defeat. Speaking their minds, it's a freedom fight. Unsanctioned America, they'll light up the night. So tune in and listen, join the crusade for a brighter tomorrow. The truth will not fade.
As I've been warning for months, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen. But we also must recognize the reality that our world has fundamentally changed.
Welcome to Unsanctioned.
Price right enough, pun intended, I suppose, Mr. Secretary, to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve right now?
Oh, absolutely. We are refilling the reserve now, and we will continue to refill the reserve the whole time I'm in office. You know, that was just such an irresponsible action to drain that reserve so quickly for electoral reasons. And in fact, it was drained so fast, it did some damaging to the facilities. And so right now, we only can fill 2 of the 4 major salt caverns we have. So we're doing repair work on the other 2. We're slowly filling the other 2. And I'm trying to get some funds through Congress that'll give us a longer-term runway to fill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve at the fastest rate we can.
Well, some good news there, John, from our Energy Secretary, that they're filling up the strategic reserves, getting them back where they needed to be. And he's right. It was completely foolish of the Biden administration, but so many things were happening during the Biden administration that were foolish, John.
And what a big one this is, to empty your strategic oil reserves when World War III looks like it's on your doorstep. It seems like it's the last thing that you would do, especially for such a vile reason like trying to win an election. It's basically, treason. It's an act of treason. If he wasn't out of his wits, now everyone acknowledges that the man has dementia, that he was on a steep decline, intellectual and mental decline, although not far to go on the intellectual side. Now even the reporters are acknowledging that we didn't cover this, but to empty your strategic oil reserves, it just seems like they were doing everything they could to bring about the demise of the United States. It's really a horrific act of malfeasance or misfeasance.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Terrible. Welcome to another episode of Unsanctioned America. This is episode 312, May 1, 2025. I'm going to read the headlines real quick before we do a prayer and get into the show. Welcome. I am former school member John Arguello. This is my great friend, citizen Tom Lord, and we have a great show for you. So as soon as this opens for me, here we go. Okay, well, you guys saw it. Maple syrup junkies get dramatic in Canada. Somebody's been saying, we would take Canada, and a lot of people are like, screw this guy. We'll take Canada if we want it. I don't know that I would want Canada. I want Canada about as much as I want Puerto Rico. I wouldn't want them. I don't want to become states. You wouldn't want them, and it's just because, you don't want the societal habits of places like Canada or Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico just had an island-wide blackout, electrical grid blackout. That's after the gigantic storms that passed and crushed Puerto Rico, okay? And then they went to rebuild. People here from Central Florida, from all over the country, went to go rebuild their grid. I don't know whatever happened there. I know that there was a lot of money. But then they realized that there was a ton of mismanagement of the utilities in Puerto Rico. And that's just, Puerto Rico has one step in the United States, 1 foot in the United States, and 1 foot in Latin America. And Latin American countries do very few things extremely well, right? When it comes to governance, they almost do nothing well. So we see some good examples right now. Chile has been a really good example. Puerto Rico is certainly no Chile. And we see El Salvador making leaps and bounds. Puerto Rico is no El Salvador. Unfortunately, it's on the other side of those nations. So Canada, I would not. First of all, nobody's coming for you, Canada. Okay, I mean, that's ridiculous. Nobody is coming for you, and the United States is not your enemy. If the United States was your enemy, we would just sneeze and take it over.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous concept. And this guy built a campaign over it. The media, of course, loves the fact that he's speaking out against Trump, but Canada really, the only thing Canada has to offer is location. And it's not even location for people. It's really just strategic defense. You can do anything that you want out there in the super high north because nobody wants
maple syrup, John.
Well, yeah, you got maple syrup. But you know what? I think that now we have a whole bunch of substitutes for maple syrup. Agave. You got all kinds of stuff. We don't even need maple syrup. I hate the smell of syrup now. Ever since Trudeau, I can't stand maple syrup. I hate to see a leaf. I don't even like oak leaves anymore. So I just, whatever, Canada. This guy's super dramatic. And, of course, there's some more important things going on, and I think that you see that. But let's say a prayer and get down to the show.
All right.
Lord, wow, what a world we are in right now. It's so interesting. Everything is so dynamic. Things are moving so incredibly quickly. We see a correction of our country, and we see people trying to fight. You can only guess on why someone would want to fight the improvement of our country and our country going in the right direction. And we pray and hope that the American people see the truth. We hope and pray that the American people stay involved, that they stay alert, that they become aware. We have spent all of my lifetime in foreign policy, when it comes to foreign policy, especially worrying about the rest of the world. And it has really come back to bite us because no other country cares about the United States, but the United States has been taking care of everywhere else. Lord, just help us do the right thing because we know that the health of this country brings stability to the rest of the world. And so we're grateful to be here. We're grateful to be American. We're grateful for the blessings of a constitution that acknowledges that our rights come from you and no one else, no other man. And for those things, we are truly grateful and blessed. In your son's name, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, let's get to it.
All right, let's
Tom.
get to it. Some
What do you got?
news. All right, so just a quick mention before we get to this first story. You know, there's been a lot made about Signalgate, as they're calling it on CNN and MSNBC. And yes, today President Trump did appoint Mike Waltz to ambassador to the UN. He did resign as National Security Advisor, and Marco Rubio is going to step up and pull double duty. He's going to do both jobs in the time being, but we're not going to talk about Signalgate or any of that stuff. If you want to hear about that, you can go watch CNN or MSNBC.
I mean, it's a fixture. It's a fixture on the liberal news networks.
Yeah.
It's the only thing they talk about. And I'll be honest with you, I think Mike Waltz really messed up, right?
Yeah.
But it's not the world's greatest. Literally, look what we were talking about: emptying out the strategic oil reserves versus a signal chat. If you don't know the differences between those two things, but you only report on one of them, then you're not a reporter. You're just the political. You're just the public relations arm of the Democrat Party. And the fact is that a signal chat means nothing.
No.
But certainly, those strategic oil reserves are the lifeblood of a country if something goes wrong. So, I mean, I don't know. I'd rather that's a far bigger story to me, and people who aren't reporting it are just showing their true colors as, you know, a Democrat operative.
Absolutely. And there was a lot worse happening during the Biden administration than this signal chat. But yet, this signal chat has been elevated.
In the White House.
You know?
I mean, they did cover that because they didn't know who it belonged to, but I think we all knew where it came from.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, we did open the show with that video of the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Carney. And, you know, it's funny to me, John, that they elected this guy over Trump trolling, basically. Trump was trolling Canada, and they took it seriously, especially this guy, Carney. But he is truly Trudeau 2.0. Dr. Jordan Peterson was on the Joe Rogan podcast before the election warning people about this guy, and here's this clip of him talking about Carney.
Right. Well, no matter what. It's also, I think, First Amendment, use the law, use lawfare. Use whatever. Yeah. Use whatever. This is one of the things that worries me about Canada at the moment. You know, I know when we talked a couple of weeks ago, I expressed my concern about what was happening in Canada.
Doesn't look good.
Well, I read Carney's book, Values. I read it twice, and I understood it. And Carney says in that book, well, he says he's an advocate of centralized planning, ESG. He was a huge ESG advocate. He organized many large corporations to go down this central planning governance route because the market wasn't pricing everything properly, and so central planners had to step in, and BlackRock and Vanguard and places like that were big parts of that. Don't know if they were directly affected by Carney, but it's the same thing, and they've stepped away from that, and he's a big DEI advocate, and he's also a net zero advocate. And Carney says in his book, this is a good example of this, and I think also a good example of this kind of narcissism that we talked about earlier. Every single financial decision that every individual or organization makes has to prioritize decarbonization above all else. Or else. And there will be many, he doesn't say casualties, but he implies that. There'll be many who pay a price along the way, but it's necessary, you know, because you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. And then he says 75% of the world's fossil fuels have to stay in the ground. And this is who Canadians are seriously thinking about electing.
And they did, John. They did. They elected this guy. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, this guy is the worst of the worst. This is a European-style socialist who is on the left side of the spectrum when it comes to political views. I mean, he's probably a communist, but they don't, they don't acknowledge when they're a communist, right?
Yeah.
But his book exposes him for the leftist he is, and that's a true danger. Now we do have, like you were saying in the prep, we have an enemy of the United States on our borders.
Yes.
Right. So Mexico has been acting as an enemy. They've been allowing these people to come across the border with just nothing slowing them down. They've been allowing them to carry fentanyl across the border like nothing else. And they've allowed, now Canada's also been allowing. Now, why do you think that this is a big deal, this whole Canada battle over the border, the northern border? It's about fentanyl. That's what it's about. And for some reason, Canada does not want to help the United States curb the problem of fentanyl coming across the border. And I think it has to do with they need the demise of the United States so they can carry out this absolute control, central planning. Central planning is an old school way of controlling the economy in your country. Only a real leftist talks about central planning. Everyone, even Bernie Sanders, doesn't mention central planning. That tells you how far to the left this guy is. And of course, Pierre, the guy that was running against, I think everybody in Canada is named Pierre. But Pierre ran against Carney and lost big time. Why? He got into a fight with Trump, like for leading up the 6 months leading up to the election. He was fighting with Trump.
Yeah.
Probably the dumbest conservative outside of Florida's legislature. I don't know. Maybe Texas's legislature as well.
and you know, it's funny, John, because this is all over Trump trolling. It's all over Trump trolling. And,
yeah, you can't take a joke. I mean, you can't take a joke. That's what it is. You can't take a joke. You get, what they call it, the backside hurt, and all of a sudden you're saying things that ruin your career. This guy's, he should have taken it in stride. Yeah. If Pierre had taken it in stride and he had been like, I'm going to use this notoriety, right? That Canada is gaining from being mentioned, from the word Canada coming out of Trump's mouth, made people pay attention to a country that has 4 people in it, all right? 2 of which work in the maple syrup industry, and 2 of them are in the government, apparently running against each other.
Yeah, the other 2 play hockey.
Yeah, and you would have thought that they would have made use of it for good things. Instead, they want to get into a war with the United States. I mean, it's really just doesn't make any sense.
It's really crazy on their part, and it's really crazy that Canadians voted for this guy and want to continue down the path of Justin Trudeau and these socialist policies and these socialist ideas.
Well, the great thing about this is that Canada, like I said, it's got a half a dozen people in it. Canada can't impact the world.
No.
Okay? The only thing Canada can impact is the lives of Canadians. Therefore, Canadians voted to make their lives more miserable.
They did.
What better lesson? Canada's no China, although Carney may, he wishes he was, but Canada can only impact it. So all the people who live in Canada are going to be more miserable. I would imagine, and I saw something recently that I thought was very interesting. A lot of conservatives in countries across the world are asking if they are now contemplating asking for asylum to come to the United States when they're under these crazy ass governments like the one that Canada just elected.
No. So
imagine, that would be a very interesting thing. But of course, you don't want that to happen because people would just abandon those countries to come to the United States.
Yeah.
Canada's just, it's a silly goose. That's all.
It sure is. And you just mentioned China.
All it is. It's bad.
You just mentioned China, John, and our next story has to do with China and the perplexing behavior that they're displaying right now. Very interesting that some of the experts, especially this expert, Gordon Chang, talking about China and the weird behavior that they're displaying. Now, we're picking up on a conversation he was having with Maria Bartiromo, and they were talking about how they went to Sandy Key and they planted their flag, which is a key of the Philippines. So the Philippines went there and planted their flag too. Just very strange. And Gordon Chang has some comments about that.
Both countries' flags are flying on the reef. China's Coast Guard is accusing the Filipino personnel of illegally boarding the reef, even as both countries claim control over it. So how are they denying it if, in fact, they unfurled the flag?
This is really important because at a time when China needs friends, because it's not selling goods to the U.S., it is going out of its way to antagonize not just the Philippines, not just Taiwan, but also South Korea and Australia. This shows that China is going, this is end of regime conduct. Because, you know, Xi Jinping, he can't appear to be giving in to the U.S. He has configured the Chinese political system so that it is hostile. And also, because he's been making the claim that China has surpassed the U.S., he can't look dependent on trade with the U.S., and he certainly can't look like he's talking to the U.S. under pressure. So when you have the Chinese lashing out at the Philippines at Sandy Key, as you just showed, this is really very perplexing behavior, and it shows that something is very, very wrong in Beijing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, John, and you wrote something about this, didn't you?
We spoke about this on the show. I've been talking about it for years. I mentioned that there were symptoms that China would implode at some point. Of course, I predicted that it would happen way before now. I predicted that it would happen 15 years ago. And certainly by, 2020. So it's 5 years late. And the reason that it would was that for two reasons. Number one, that the growth of China is very fast. It wouldn't be able to keep up. It would cause it to implode for reasons of not being able to control it. And number two, I believe that people would get sick and tired of the economic freedom and instead also want political freedom. I didn't think it would last as long as it did, especially once you have money in your pocket, then you want to be able to say whatever you want with that money. And in China, you can't do that. So, of course, I was wrong in that sense. But now we're seeing signs, which we've mentioned on the show many times, signs of China losing their minds. And these are absolutely because of Trump's pressure. They would not be trying to exert control. And why? Because Chinese culture, it's one of the reasons why I say we need to go to Latin America to manufacture things that we don't want to manufacture here, is because China has a completely different culture that most Americans aren't aware of. One of it being that you need to save face. It's a matter of honor. And so therefore, she cannot just bend over and admit, okay, the U.S. is right? Because China has already been announcing that China is stronger than the United States in China. As far as the Chinese people know, they've taken over the role of the United States in the world. Because of that, now you can't go back and say, oh, well, we got beat by some chess move by Trump. And that's what's, the issue. So what does he have to do? He's got to change the narrative in China right now to change focus away from the tariffs because they're not sending their goods here anymore. And they got to focus on some kind of other move. This move happens to be a military move or a political move. There's a very fine line between those two things. And we'll see what happens. God forbid that conflict break out. It might, when conflict does break out, the people of that country, normally they become a little bit more patriotic. You get a bump, right? And then she might get a bump of confidence from his people because everybody thinks that war is fast and glorious. And then what happens is that you start losing your sons and daughters in war. And then you realize, oh, this is not such a great thing.
Yeah.
So you just never know. All those things are playing into it. And we're watching I thoroughly believe that we're watching a guy in the last few years of his leadership role.
Yeah, it sure looks that way, John. And it's funny to me that they're doing these behaviors, and I understand about their honor system in China, but he's already given up on some of the tariffs from the United States, like on electronics, computers, certain chips, things like that. He's already given up on it. So I don't know if the people of China realize that, but
I mean, God only knows. They control the media there. They control the internet there. So just because you know something to be true here doesn't mean that you're gonna know that it's true somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so it's just you just never know what they know and what they don't know.
Yeah. Well, like I said, interesting what's happening, and we'll keep an eye on that. But even more interesting is this guy here, John. I had never even heard of this guy until this week when we learned that he has filed 7 articles of impeachment against President Trump.
This is the Lego man.
Yes. It's Democrat Representative Sri Thanadar out of Michigan. And here he is, if you can understand him.
This is Congressman Sri Thanadar. Donald Trump has already done real damage to our democracy. but defying a unanimous 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, that has to be the final straw. It's time we impeach Donald J. Trump. The court said the wrongfully deported Kilmer Garcia must be allowed to return and receive due process. Trump ignored it. He ignored the Constitution. He ignored the very checks and balances that keep our democracy intact. This isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a dangerous, deliberate pattern. That's why today I introduced a resolution to impeach Donald J. Trump, outlining 7 articles of impeachment. Article 1, obstruction of justice and abuse of executive power. From denying due process.
We don't need to listen to them all.
No, yeah, we're not going to go through the whole thing with this guy. But the funny thing is, John, if you were ever wondering whatever happened to Tattoo from Fantasy Island, there he is. He's all grown up, John. There he is. That's his real name now, Sri Thanadar. There he is. But even more interesting is things that we're finding out about this guy. Now that he's come out and done this and filed these 7 articles of impeachment, we're finding out very interesting things about this guy. So here's the first one, and this came from Laura Loomer on X.
And you can see Indian Democrat congressman who filed articles of impeachment against Trump has a history of financial scams and has been accused of fraud multiple times in court filings. In 2016, the Detroit News reported on a lawsuit against Sri Thanadar for making fraudulent and misleading claims to inflate the value of his company, which he sold in a deal that pocketed him roughly $20 million. The article also revealed that Thanadar's St. Louis-based chemical analysis company crumbled when a lender dragged him to court. A bankruptcy judge then appointed a receiver to liquidate the business. This is the same Sri Thanadar who is in $730,000 of campaign debt and just filed impeachment articles against President Trump so he can raise money to pay off his congressional campaign debt, which he is listed on his most recent FEC filings as investment income loss. All right, so that's the first thing we found out about this guy. You find out these things and you're just kind of like, all right, what leg does this guy have to stand on? And it gets worse, John. I'm up. Mr. Thanadar and his company back in this was reported, and this up. All right, it was there. All right, there it is. All right. So this is the Detroit Metro Times, John, and there he is. This report originally appeared in the Huffington Post, and yes, Thanadar did run for governor there in Michigan. He owned a former pharmaceutical company that abandoned 173 dogs and monkeys in its facility after the company went bankrupt in 2010. Thanadar had to shutter the New Jersey testing facility, Anaclin Preclinical Services, after its parent company, Azo Pharma, which he owned, went bankrupt in April of 2010. Local animal rights activists learned in June of that year that 118 beagles were still stuck inside the facility. There's fences, food and water to the dogs. This was coming from USA Today. It wasn't just the dogs. It was also monkeys, John. It was also monkeys. So this is who Sri Thanadar is. Such a great guy. He's filing articles of impeachment against President Trump when he has this crazy, shady history himself.
I mean, he clearly doesn't care about the law. He doesn't care. And he's Indian, so I wonder if he's Muslim or if he's Hindu. But imagine if he's Hindu. Animals are supposed to be sacred, and the guy leaves a bunch of animals to starve to death and basically rot in cages of his company. It's truly disturbing. A person that can do that is just, there's clearly something wrong with him.
Yeah. When I was learning the details
from the haircut.
Yeah, exactly. When I was learning the details to this story, I was just like, you got to be kidding me.
you know, this is the last guy who should be standing up and getting in front of a camera when he has a history like this. You know what I mean? That's bound to come out. He had to know these things were going to come out about himself. And, he's going out there filing these 7 articles of impeachment. Now, originally, there's a little bit more to this story. Democrats were on board with this, but 3 Democrats have already jumped ship from this impeachment, including Democrat leadership. Kwesi Mfume, Jerry Nadler, and one other have
God
jumped.
bless you.
They have jumped ship from this Democrat impeachment. They don't want nothing to do with it, and they're saying because they don't think it could happen, that it was too soon. It wasn't signed off by Democrat leadership. So Mr. Thanadar is on an island, no pun intended, all by himself with this impeachment.
Yeah, of course he is. For one, it's very early. Number 2, you don't want to be out front. You want to be like off to the side when he's not like the most famous guy in the world. He's not Adam Schiff. He's not a big name. He's not an AOC. He's not a Bernie Sanders. This guy's trying to make a name for himself. And I think that a lot of people know that, and people don't want to tie themselves to him or his losses.
Yeah.
And I think that Trump is probably going to just, Trump won Michigan. Number 1, right?
Yeah.
We are going to see a very interesting Senate race in Michigan. Many people are saying that Ilhan Omar is going to run for Senate. So imagine Omar becoming a senator.
Oh, Lord.
That would be quite dangerous for the United States. So that's a true possibility. So there's going to be a Republican that runs for Senate in Michigan, and that is a race that is going to have nationwide implications. And we need to shore up that state. I mean, strong. When you got people like Shri Thanadar over there, who's acting crazy, looking crazy, and acting crazy. I mean, you need to make sure that we elect a senator to the Senate seat in Michigan.
Yeah, I guess he's looking for 15 more minutes of fame, John. You
Yeah,
have to remember, his fame was back in the late 70s, early 80s when he was on Fantasy Island. It's over now. No more for you. Go away. And I'm sure President Trump is just ignoring this, probably laughing about it behind the scenes. Especially once you hear this guy speak, it's pretty laughable. But anyway, we'll move on from him and get to this one.
I don't think people want to take on Trump. They don't want to take on Trump directly.
Especially not
at Trump from the sides, from the sidelines. You don't take them on like this head on.
Especially not ABC News, and they learned their lesson this week, John.
Exactly like ABC News.
Because he destroyed this reporter. I guess his name is Terry Moran, but he gave an exclusive interview to ABC News. We're going to play a couple of clips from this interview, but Trump just destroyed this guy.
If you have kids in the room, you might want to hide their eyes. This is brutal. I've seen grizzly bears do less damage to people on a hiking trail than this reporter in the Oval Office.
Here's the first clip.
A very good defense, hopefully a great defense secretary, but he'll be a very good defense secretary.
You have 100% confidence in
I don't have 100% confidence in anything. Okay, anything. Do I have 100%? It's a stupid question. Look,
it's a pretty important position.
No. You don't have 100%. Only a liar would say I have 100% confidence. I don't have 100% confidence that we're going to finish this interview.
Man, the guy is fast.
Yes.
Now, can you imagine Biden? Do you remember when Biden was up there? Biden couldn't put 2 sentences together. This guy is uppercuts and jab, cross. He is sharp.
Yeah.
He is sharp, and for good reason. And thank God he is, because he needs it. We have a whole bunch of victories that are heading our way. Hopefully we got peace, right? Ukraine-Russia peace coming down the pipe, because we just got that mineral deal. Yeah. And here he is. This reporter's not talking about world events.
No.
He's talking about silly stuff, and that's all he wants to talk about.
He was basically trying to go after Signalgate, the same, what they're all talking about. He was going after that. He was going after Hegseth. And then in this clip, well, it speaks for itself.
Do you think the reputation of the United States has gone down under your presidency?
No, I think it's gone way up, and I think we're a respected country again. We were laughed at all over the world. We had a president that couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, couldn't walk down a flight of stairs, couldn't walk across a stage without falling. We had a president that was grossly incompetent. You knew it, I knew it, and everybody knew it, but you guys didn't want to write it because you're fake news.
All right. Thank you.
And by the way, ABC is one of the worst, I have to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Okay, get out of my office. Okay, so apparently, you think about this. ABC, he gave this to ABC. This is a master class in chess. ABC, first of all, I'm surprised that he even gave an interview to ABC, but he did.
Yeah.
ABC had no one to do the interview. Stephanopoulos, he's the reason that they had to pay $15 million in a lawsuit, right? And so they don't have anybody. Then they have the guy, I'm not even going to mention his name, the guy that did the debate, who did such a horrible job during the debate. Trump won't even allow him in the state. And now you have this guy. So they had a third string guy come off the bench and do this interview and just get hammered.
Yeah.
Hammered.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I can't think of anybody that they had to do the interview after, just play it honest. Play it straight. Why? Why be the guy from like the producer from 60 Minutes that has to make a fool of yourself? Get caught making a fool of yourself. Be exposed in front of the whole world, and then you want to act like you have principle? I mean, come on, man. This is too serious of a job at that level. Just play it straight.
It's like they can't help themselves, John.
They can't help themselves, man.
You got
It's
this
so
guy,
sad.
and he looks so smug when he's asking these questions to President Trump. I'm glad President Trump gave it to him. You guys will never learn. You're not going to get President Trump. You're not going to get that viral moment where you got him. You're not going to get him. He's going to get you. And it's going to go viral.
There's going
That's
to
going
be
to be the
40
way it
clips.
goes.
There's going to be 40 clips of him ripping your arm off and maybe one clip of you like getting a scratch in. I mean, come on. It's not worth it. It's not worth your career. It's not worth your reputation. And it's not worth the country being misinformed. Just, do your job as a reporter the right way.
Yeah. All right, John. So another cabinet meeting, and I'll tell you, John, I appreciate so much that these cabinet meetings are public, that we get to see these cabinet meetings, get to hear what's going on in these cabinet meetings, and some very interesting things coming out of these cabinet meetings, especially this one. Interesting comments from both Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. First, we're going to hear this comment from Tulsi Gabbard. Here's that clip.
I'd like to highlight just 3 of the areas where we are helping to support your leadership and your work in making America safe again and bringing about these changes. First of all, because of your designation of cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, I took immediate action with our National Counterterrorism Center to prioritize their focus on those terrorists and gang members who are trying to enter our country through legal or illegal means, and to seek out those who already are here in our country because of the Biden administration's 4 years of open borders. We've been working very closely with your great Attorney General's team at the DEA to get these known cartels into our systems, to be able to stop them at the border, and turning over names to Department of Homeland Security and the FBI to be able to find those who are already here in our country. Just the other day, we found 700 alien terrorists who have ties to MS-13, Tren de Aragua, and the Sinaloa cartel. Just yesterday, our NCTC identified almost 600 individuals with ties to other terrorists who came through our borders illegally, claimed asylum, and under the Biden administration were paroled here within our borders.
Wow. But you see there that she's doing a lot of the work. We're getting a lot of that stuff done, John, as far as getting these criminals out of the country.
Well, this is great policy action right here. They took action. Not only are they having, of course, everybody likes the fact that they have these cabinet meetings in public. There's a camera there. We get to witness it. Everybody gives a brief on what's going on. And these are serious issues. These are not like fake issues. They're not making it up. They're not bringing them in just to pretend that Trump is not does not have dementia. No, these people are discussing real issues and letting the American people know exactly what's up. And this is a big one. She's telling you, and it worked. The flow of illegal immigrants from other countries, from the South, especially from Mexico, has pretty much stopped.
Yeah.
Right? It's down in the 90%, 90 something percent. It has been reduced by that much. It's a drastic. It just goes to show that the previous administration was not only lying, they were also inept, and they were corrupt. God only knows what their intention is. That's what we have to figure out. That's what comes out. I'm waiting for the one where Pam Bondi does an update in that cabinet meeting and says, you know what? We researched, we investigated, we turned over every leaf, every rock, every pebble. We looked under every shoe. We opened every door. We opened every drawer. And what we discovered is that these people were intentionally trying to sink this country because they were receiving money from China. That's my suspicion.
Yeah.
Right? They were basically doing what all dictators do. They snatch, they grab, they put in their pockets, they send across the world so that they can leave and leave whatever country's in ruins because they're going to be rich.
No.
That's my suspicion. Just because I've seen it happen before. I've seen it before. I know what that kind of action looks like. And I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting to see the files on Epstein. I'm waiting for Pam Bondi to stand out in one of these cabinet meetings. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. And hopefully we will see her stand out in one of these meetings and talk about the arrest she's made after these comments from RFK Jr., John.
We have ended HHS as the role as the vector, the principal vector in this country for child trafficking. And during the Biden administration, HHS became a collaborator in child trafficking and for sex and for slavery. And we have ended that, and we're very aggressively going out and trying to find these children, 300,000 children that were lost by the Biden administration.
300,000
that's
children.
Not a joke. 300,000. I mean, did everyone hear that? There's all the people watching the show, dozens of people watching the show. 300,000 children are missing, and the United States government was involved in those kids, some of them being used or being shuffled into the sex work world. That happened, and the United States was complicit. The government of the United States was complicit. A department, a cabinet-level department, HHS, was responsible for it. It had an involvement in it. I'm waiting for Pam Bondi to start putting people in handcuffs.
Absolutely.
And if I don't see that, I will. I don't know what I'll do. I will. I'll never vote Republican. I don't know what I'll do. Because Trump can't be the only one. And here's the thing: to his credit, RFK is doing what he said he was going to do. Right?
Yes, yep.
Trump gave him a mandate. RFK is doing what he said he was going to do, and he's doing it publicly. He's doing it out in the open. He's doing it. RFK is the biggest danger to Republicans. He's the largest, by far the biggest threat to Republicans. If he runs as a Democrat, he has a chance of beating the Republican.
Yep.
And he's the only one. And the Democrats are so dumb. They are so dumb. I can't even, the word so doesn't have enough meaning to it. He's like, I'm going to speak like a teenager, like a preteen for a second. He is so dumb. I have to make it dramatic. They are so dumb that they let the one guy that was a threat to the Republican Party go. I know that's not what the story that we're talking about. I'm just saying this guy is the only threat to the Republicans, and look what happened. Trump snagged him.
Yep.
That just, again, chess and checker. He basically took the white queen for the black team. It's amazing. It's amazing. Tulsi, same thing, right?
Elon.
The white knight, Elon, right? Black Rook. I mean, these guys. These are chess pieces, and now Trump is playing with twice as many chess pieces as the Democrats, and the only one that they have left is the bishop. Let's just say their other rook. The Democrats have is the media.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they have. They have the media, and they have all these fake churches.
Yes,
Those are the two things that the Democrats have. Fake churches that won't speak the truth, and the media, and because I mean these cabinet meetings are just crazy, and I cannot wait for Pam Bondi to make the show and us be like, wow, can you believe that that's happening?
Yeah,
that's what we're waiting for.
That's what we really need to see next, John, is we need to see Pam Bondi follow through.
How about arresting James Comey? Yeah, James Comey. Can you? I mean, listen. James Comey was caught. We're talking about the cabinet. That's a cabinet. You know, the FBI director almost, right? It belongs to Pam Bondi's office. James Comey did a fake, off-the-books investigation of Trump with two. Who did he send? Did he send two, like FBI agents on the normal? Right? No, he didn't even do that. He sent two honeypot agents. He sent two agents with the specific task to go and sexualize the investigation, use sexuality to create a problem for Trump, and he did it off the books. Put Comey in jail. Comey needs to be in jail. If Comey doesn't go to jail, I mean, forget it. I'll never trust Pam Bondi. I'll never try. If I don't see results coming, and here's the thing, I'm being patient, and here's why I'm being patient. I'm not going to not say it, right? But I will be patient because she needs time. And I imagine, number one, they got to have all their ducks in a row. Number two, the election is in 2 years, right? You don't want to start just throwing crazy. He's doing a lot at once. He's taking care of one thing at a time. And 12, you know, we got 7 more months to go for the end of the year. Next January, that whole year leading up to the elections, I better see some arrests.
Yeah, and maybe that is what it is, John. Maybe they are being strategic with this. I don't know what could be holding it up. You know, I know they have to, you know, dot their I's and cross their T's, but we need to see some action. We need some people held accountable, and hopefully we do see it soon. And if we don't, and it comes early next year or something like that, then we know it was strategic, and it was to impact the 2026 elections. But anyway, I mean,
the worst thing in the world is that they don't do their damn jobs. The jobs that they promised Americans that they would do.
Yeah.
And then you see like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard running on the Democrat side.
Yeah, that would be tough. That would be tough,
right?
Yeah.
That would be catastrophic. That would be catastrophic for what we've done. You know, and here's the thing. Now you have RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard on the left. Imagine. Then you have Vance, right? And then whoever else, Vance and Marco Rubio on the right side, right? And then who knows? Maybe they don't even run as Republicans. Maybe they run as an America First Party candidates. And then on the Republican side, you have some kind of Mitch McConnell, like, you know, gopher turtle and somebody else.
Yeah,
you just never know.
That is a possibility. So
I think in 2 years we're going to see, and in 4 years we're really going to see.
What we really have to see is if the Democrat Party would accept back an RFK Jr. or a Tulsi Gabbard.
They are dead, but the upper party leadership is not willing to accept that fact.
Well, let me say this. When I say Democrat Party, I mean whoever assumes the role of the Democratic Party, right? Because the Democrat Party is dead. AOC is not going to win anything. She couldn't even win. She can't win a bartending competition in Congress. She's absolutely not going to be president. She can make a ticket. I wouldn't be surprised because, I mean, you know, I wouldn't be surprised, right? Bernie Sanders. So they're going to put a 97-year-old Bernie Sanders, communist, with AOC, a girl who is the envy of every horse, you know, in New York for her teeth, and that's who they're going to. I mean, come on, that doesn't make sense. Too much. You can't make a caricature a real shot, right? Although Trump did. Trump, you know, checks every box for every purpose, right? So, I mean, I don't know. It's just, we'll see what happens in 4 years.
Absolutely.
All right, John. So let's check out some stories from across the nation. John. So first up, This is breaking news. This just happened today. Former Democrat political candidate gets caught up and arrested in a sexting operation. Crazy. Here's this story.
The politician is among more than a dozen people arrested in a human trafficking bust. Carl Sprayberry ran last year to represent Georgia's 139th district near Columbus. Investigators say he and 18 other people tried to reach out to children through the internet.
These are folks who acted. They went to a specific location to meet a child, oftentimes to exchange money for sexual activity. So they acted. They didn't just look at it, they acted.
Officials say boys and girls were targeted through social media apps and dating websites. Authorities confirmed no children were harmed.
Well, yeah. This guy, John,
but they were trying, not for lack of trying, that's for sure.
No. But this is blown up. It's everywhere. It's all over the internet. It's all over X about Mr. Carl Sprayberry. And interesting, John, that this is a guy who actually, when he was running for office, called for the assassination of President Trump. And here, let me see if I can bring this up. Yeah, here it is. Two-time Democratic candidate for the Georgia State House, arrested in connection with a sting operation targeting sexual predators and charged with human trafficking. Carl Sprayberry, a 32-year-old from Columbus, Georgia, previously ran for separate Georgia House seats currently held by Republicans. District 134 in 2020 and District 139 in 2024. He lost both races. Yeah, so Sprayberry, he looks like he is about 18 years old or younger. But yes, he is
what a name.
32 years old, and now he's going to end up in a jail cell being some man's girlfriend.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. You never know, because they are, Georgia is such a disappointment. You just never know. You just never know what happens in Georgia. I mean, isn't that where Fannie Willis comes from?
Yes, absolutely.
So, if you can have Fannie Willis in your state, you can't be a dependable state. But my God, this guy is somebody who called for violence against Trump, from what we saw in some reports, right? We don't know. That's not confirmed. I didn't see it actually happen, but it was in some reports that he had tried to incite violence against Trump. Then he runs for office. And of course, he's a Democrat, and here he is looking at child pornography. I don't understand why that's their biggest demographic.
Yeah.
I mean, the Democrats did perform well with that demographic, people who look at child porn. And it's just sickening. And I hope that this guy goes to jail for a long time, and I hope his boyfriend is not very nice.
Yeah, John, he was hoping to meet a child. I don't know what the lure was that got him to the place that he was going to meet that supposed child, but instead he got greeted by Georgia sheriffs, and now he's in jail. So,
yep. Listen. These stories are crazy. So look, that's terror. That's absolutely horrendous, right? No. Here's another horrendous story.
Yep. Texas House votes to criminalize political memes, John. Now, we thought we had a RINO problem in Florida. I guess we have a big RINO problem in Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. HB 366 is a step towards transparency and integrity in political advertising. Move passage.
Question occurs on passage to engrossment. Question occurs. The question occurs on passage to engrossment of HB 366. Record vote has been requested. Record vote is granted. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Moody voting aye. Show Ms. Jones of Harris voting aye. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? There being 106 ayes and 39 nays, HB 366 is passed to engrossment.
It's just crazy because we've talked about Texas on this show a few times. We talked about how we have an Islamic takeover happening in Texas right now, and the politicians there are completely ignoring it, are being bought off. We have this here where they're criminalizing political memes. It's just unbelievable, John.
Texas is, like they say everything is bigger in Texas. Well, the RINO problems are pretty big in Texas. They have, first of all, they almost elect a Democrat to be Speaker of the House. I don't know how that went or what happened or how they saved themselves from that. But then now they have a law banning what is essentially free speech. A meme, I mean, we see them. We play them on the show all the time.
Yeah.
A meme, it's a video or a picture or whatever. It's like cartoons. So now what are they going to do? And I think that they're going to lose a lawsuit over it. I think it'll go to the Supreme Court and they're going to lose because what about political cartoons?
Yeah.
That's an editorial cartoon. What about editorial cartoons? That's a meme. What's the difference? One is digital and one is with crayons. What is the difference there? I mean, a Republican supermajority should not be trying to curtail the free speech of the American citizen. Although they tried to do that in Florida as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these Republicans, I think basically it's a backlash against Donald Trump's election. They never want someone like Donald Trump to win an election again. They're happy to ride the wave, ride his coattails to wherever it takes them, but they absolutely positively cannot have another common person uprising, which has happened throughout the United States right now, right? All the policies being driven by the common person, what the common man wants, and they cannot afford that. They have to have a lobbyist-driven system. That's how they survive. That's what they love. That's how they make their money. That's what, that's why they always get caught with drugs and women and men in hotel rooms. That, because that whole lifestyle, that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
And there's very few public servants out there who are fighting for a better country, and laws like this basically try to protect that from happening. And man, I don't know. I'm keep telling myself, you got to be patient. Let Trump do what he's doing. Let Trump do what he's doing, and then you got to have faith in the American people. But I mean, what is wrong with the people in Texas? I hope that they realize how deceived they were, and they vote all their people out.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much money. Everyone needs to be paying attention to politics right now. There are some countries where voting is compulsory. And, I mean, I don't think that voting should be compulsory, but awareness is a civic compulsory action. You got to know what the hell is going on.
Yeah. And that's my fear, John, is I think that a lot of people, after the election of President Trump, kind of sat back on their laurels and decided, you know what, everything's okay now. I'm just going to trust that President Trump's going to take care of everything. If you're in a state that has a Republican supermajority, you're like, okay, we have Republican control here. Everything's going to be fine. No, it's not going to be fine. You need to be paying attention all the time, especially you guys in Texas and especially Floridians here in Florida. You need to be paying attention. My fear is that we're going to see something like this pass here in Florida. Thank God the session is over now, though, at our legislature. Although they do have to come back because they didn't balance the budget, John. They didn't get a budget done. But, yeah, my fear is we'll see something similar to that here in Florida. And it's just bad. It's totally bad.
I agree. I mean, Florida's bad. Texas is bad. These are supermajority, and these guys are corrupt. It's like, no matter how much you want to trust an addict, you want to see somebody recover, it's so hard to trust them. And these guys are addicts. They're addicts to corruption, and it's just you just got to pray that some of them fight the urge to be corrupt and do the right thing. I know that's not happening where I was.
I almost said a little bit more than I wanted to. I want to save some of this for the Florida show tomorrow because we got a lot going on the Florida show tomorrow. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Let's take it to this one here. And these 24 people, this is in Texas too, by the way, John, Galveston. 24 people banned from Carnival Cruise Line, and there's no sound to this video, but you can see what's happening here. What happened to decency, man? I mean, my God. Big giant brawl happening before. I don't know if this is before getting on the ship or after getting off the ship, but it's in the terminal. Big fight. Where has decency gone? And that's the problem in our look at the one security guard running over there. I don't know what he's gonna do, but
this is nuts. We're seeing way too much of this. We're seeing people fight in fast food joints, jump over the cash register, get into fist fights, throw coffee at each other, do all kinds of ugly things to. I mean, yeah, they need to get it together. I mean, the people who do this kind of stuff need to get it together.
Yeah.
Let's go. You need to, shape up, man. Your kids are watching, for Pete's sake. And I'm not one to, listen, I think a lot of people, they look at me and they're like, oh, you are always fighting. You're fighting in public all the time. You'd say all kinds of crazy things while you were on the school board. And yeah, but I had a purpose. I had a purpose. I had a reason to why I was fighting. Yeah. And it wasn't to make an idiot myself look like an idiot on TV or on YouTube or anything. It was, I am slugging it out, outgunned, outnumbered, right? And I had to make sure I had to fight. I had to wake people up. I had to fight for my community. I had to fight for my country. I mean, these people are fighting each other for nothing.
Yeah.
They're fighting each other for nothing. It's just get a grip. Let's go. Get it together. Get it together. I mean, in our headline, we put this as Jasmine Crockett because she's ghetto, and this is pretty ghetto.
And she's from Texas. I mean,
and she's from Texas. This looks like Jasmine Crockett's family reunion, from all intents. Now, listen, I say that in jest, but from what I understand, her family's not ghetto at all. She just acts ghetto to play the part of something she's not.
Yeah.
So that's why I call her that all the time.
For too many years, we've seen this kind of behavior accepted in a way, excused and overlooked.
People shrug it off.
Yeah, just shrug it off. This behavior. The time has come for people to rebel against this type of behavior, for our law enforcement to take over and really have some accountability for this behavior, because it's been going on for far too long. And it's no good for nobody. It's not good for our society, that's for sure.
It's not good for the kids that are watching.
No.
Somebody sent me a video of a woman who's just losing her mind, acting crazy, get tased in front of their kids, and I was horrified. I mean, come on, that's what you want for your child. You're with your kids.
It's funny, John, that I belong to a Carnival Cruise Line Facebook group, and not to overlook what happened in this video with this brawl that happened in Galveston, but there was a woman at an excursion down in the Bahamas. They were going to Blue Lagoon Island. She didn't have her wristband to go to the island. She wouldn't get off the boat. Her kid was off the boat. He was crying because he was embarrassed because they were telling the woman, get off the boat, get off the boat. They had to get some security guards to drag her off the boat.
Oh my gosh.
It's just like, come on, it's time for this behavior.
I don't know. I go nuts when I hear kids crying.
Yeah.
I go nuts when I hear kids crying. I go nuts. It's the worst thing in the world for me to hear, and I just don't understand these people that they're okay with their kids crying for no reason over stupidity.
It's time for this behavior to be held, people that display this type of behavior to be held accountable. Enough's
absolutely.
enough. Enough's enough. And speaking of bad behavior, this Democrat representative here, he just blocked a bill that would make it a felony to buy a child for sex.
Oh my gosh, this is the type of guy. This is the type of guy who wants kids to cry and behind closed doors. I don't understand that grotesque act by a California assemblyman.
Yep, and here he is, and he's explaining himself.
And I understand that you just got to the legislature, but this has been debated, and Assemblymember Krell is an expert on this issue and prosecuted folks. I mean, do you guys not trust her?
I fully trust Assemblymember Krell, but I also trust my experience as well. I, too, as you know, am a former prosecutor. I was part of the La Luz del Mundo prosecution in Los Angeles. So when it comes to protecting children and going after sex offenders and people that are exploiting children, I, too, have that experience. And as much as I do trust my colleague, Assemblymember Krell, I also trust my personal experience and my own subject matter expertise, if you will, on the subject, as well as that of the committee.
Your expertise
so right now
on
there is a well-known blade. Casey already did a documentary on it. It's just a few miles away from here. Sheriff Jim Cooper has said that right now, if a John were to go and try to purchase a 16 or 17-year-old on that blade, and law enforcement were to intervene, because of a judge's order right now in Sacramento, law enforcement would not be able to put that person in jail because it's not the solid felony that law enforcement has been asking it to be. So I just want to make sure, like, you're okay with 16 and 17-year-olds continuing to be purchased on this blade for the next year or until you have to dissect this issue in the fall, and these Johns getting let go and just issued with citations?
Well, I don't agree with the premise of the question, but what I would say is I'm not okay with any child anywhere being exploited. But the solution that we craft, the solution that we pass needs to make sense. It needs to be equitable. It needs to be comprehensive.
Equitable how? What the F is he talking about?
Equitable, John.
What is he talking? This guy is literally protecting people's right. For him, apparently, he wants it to be a right for people to go and buy 16-year-olds for sex. Prostitutions. He's encouraging 16 and 17-year-old sex work.
Yeah.
What is wrong with California? I swear, it's just horrendous. It's horrendous. This guy should be put in jail. This guy, I'm sure that at some point, this guy's just like the other guy in Georgia.
Yeah.
He'll end up in jail. Any guy who defends a 16 or 17-year-old having to sell themselves in sex work or being sex trafficked and then protecting the John, I would not be shocked. I'll say it like this. I would not be shocked if this guy in the next several years ended up in prison for some kind of human trafficking charge. It would not shock me. I would not be shocked.
Yeah.
What kind of man would do this?
Well, Democrat State Representative Nick Schultz, that's who would do it, John. He says that it needs to be, the proposal needs to be more equitable.
Yeah, equitable. I mean, it's just, this is horrendous. Horrendous. And they won, by the way. The Democrats won. They successfully prevented underage sex selling from becoming a felony. You heard that correctly. The Democrats in California successfully prevented paying sex from a minor from becoming a felony in California.
Yeah.
It's a state for disgusting people. That's all.
I'll tell you, somebody should check that guy's phone.
Yeah, no, exactly.
All right, John, and here's another WTF story.
It looks like teens have a new teen challenge that's out there. This is crazy because it'll bring back some memories from our childhood, but here it is.
A group of people believed to be teenagers rammed their way through Ben Helwa's fence 2 weeks ago. Helwa believes a social media trend sparked the bold actions of the vandals.
We found lots of examples of knucklehead teens charging full speed into fences. These youngsters ran into the fence in unison, resulting in thousands of dollars in damages.
I was just in shock because, once again, these kids ran through the fence. They fled the scene. But, are the kids even okay?
The online trend called the Kool-Aid Man Challenge, inspired by a classic commercial from the 80s. Oh, yeah. The Kool-Aid Man breaking through walls, promoting the popular drink mix. Teens are imitating the sugary mascot for likes and views on social media, according to police.
Oh, my God. I would like to see these teens try to run through a brick wall, John.
Yeah, I mean, what if there's a stud going horizontally across all those fences? I mean, man, where is this happening? Where is that story from?
That was in New York, John. NYPD is looking for these teens that are running through fences. But it's happening across the nation. It's not just in New York. It's a new TikTok challenge.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts. I mean, here's the thing. I kind of like stories like this because then there'll usually be a follow-up story that says, 30 teens end up having to mow the lawn and, the judge orders them to pay restitution. They obviously have no money, so they got to go mow the lawn, clean the house, paint the fence, rebuild the fence. Those are great lessons.
Yes.
That's the way it used to be. And now you have judges putting them in jail so that they make money for every head that they send to a private prison. I just hope that we'll have that follow-up story that has them doing something that has a positive outcome from this act of stupidity.
Yeah.
Not nearly as stupid as our legislators, though, throughout the country who are truly just idiotic, like preventing Johns from going to jail for soliciting underage sex, but stupid like running through a fence.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they're yelling, "Oh yeah," when they run through the fence. Oh yeah. All right. So, oh yeah, John. That's it. That's the end of the show.
Wow.
Short but sweet tonight.
It's been a cookie week. Thank you for watching. We love you. We appreciate you. On behalf of myself, former school board member John Arguello, my great friend, citizen Tom Lord, we will see you this weekend for Unsanctioned Florida.
Are we doing it tomorrow?
I don't know. I thought we were doing it Saturday.
I don't know. You want to do it Friday or Saturday? We can do it either one.
I don't know. We'll see. So we'll see you. Pay attention either tomorrow or the next day.
Florida show.
We'll be here with Unsanctioned Florida. Big show for you tomorrow night.
Well, I mean, I was entertained, to be honest.
I think it is rich beyond measure. The fact that a school board member that has tens of millions of dollars of conflict of interest before this board has the courage to come up here and talk about anyone's behavior. If anyone should be ashamed of themselves, sir, it should be you.
And I'm in favor of you being able to speak your mind, no matter what. That's how we get. Remember when we were kids, right? And you had a problem with somebody, and then your dad would kick you out to go fight with that kid, and then you shake hands, and then you go home, and then you become friends. Disgust when they're trying to, take this word and give it meaning that it doesn't have. Like our entire country needs to go through a fasting. You see all of these new age hippies, right? They're constantly fasting. They're doing starvation diets, or they won't eat for this, or what is it called? Like some kind of
intermittent fasting. It's not just us, and not just fans of President Trump, MAGA Republicans. We're not the only ones that see it.